Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Today is November 12th, 2025. We're nearing the end of the year, and a heck of a lot's going to happen between now and January 1st of 2026. I've tried to distill what I wanted to say today because I could sit here with pages of information, but I'm going to try to bottom line the most important information for us, and then we'll go ahead and proceed to a little bit of a Q&A. So I want to get started today, and I want to mention, as I have a few times in the past, that we have a friend in the White House, Donald Trump. In my opinion, this would not be happening if it were not for Donald Trump. The last few previous presidents either didn't want this thing to happen and took actions to delay, perhaps permanently, what's about to occur. And the most recent resident of the White House prior to Donald Trump, as kindly as I can say, it was just clueless and being manipulated by individuals, behind the scenes, behind the curtain. But that's not the case with Donald Trump. We know that he destroyed Iran's nuclear capability because Iran had threatened hegemony of the Middle East, and they were going to use their nuclear capability as leverage to force other countries to do their bidding. We know that he took out General Soleimani, the Iranian general that was orchestrating the militias in Iraq to create problems. And we know that Donald Trump has reinstituted tariffs in order to regain control of global trade and to ensure much more fair trade. Examples of that would be China, that intentionally devalues their currency in order to corner trade markets, and he has offset that, of course, with the tariffs. And then there are countries of much more interest to us, countries like Iraq and Vietnam, that were operating with program rates. And the institution of tariffs is another way to force these countries to reinstitute their currencies to a Basel IV compliant rate rather than prolong the pain for their citizens in a program rate. I'd like to talk a little bit also about what's going on in country in Iraq, because I'm of the belief, and I've been saying this now for some time, that we have a very, very good opportunity to see the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar in January, this coming January, and some individuals think even sooner than that. I know most people would want it as soon as possible. I, however, do not want to see a reinstitution and revaluation prior to January, because it's the end of the year, it's the holiday season, and a reinstitution late in a quarter, particularly late in a year, does not give us time to ascertain what the tax implications are. And if it happens really late in a given quarter, and particularly the fourth quarter, it wouldn't necessarily give us time to negotiate the exchange and then have the sufficient liquidity to pay the tax. There are individuals, unfortunately, that will probably allow banks to freeze the money for a number of weeks, something I certainly would not allow. But individuals could get hurt if they have to pay a tax on the gain from the exchange prior to the money being liquid in order to pay the tax. And that would be a very terrible situation for individuals, particularly individuals not of great means, people that have held currencies for a number of years, perhaps even decades, only to have it stripped away because of the timing of the tax. So for all of these reasons, I personally would much prefer to see a reinstitution and revaluation of the dinar early in a quarter, and in this particular case, we're talking January. Now, there is a lot going on in country in Iraq, which bodes well for a reinstitution in January. Prime Minister Soudani really has a good working partnership with the United States, and by that I mean the Trump administration. Alak, that's the governor of the CBI in Iraq, is working hard with the project to delete the zeros and the presentation for the citizens to take a gander at the new lower denoms with all of the new security features. Now, the creation and presentation of the lower denoms with very sophisticated security features makes absolutely no sense with the dinar at 1310. The only reason you would even create a lower denom is if the Iraqi dinar had a Basel compliant rate, and that's exactly what I think is going to happen. Then we have Minister of Finance Saleh, who is working hard to transition to the digital currency. Now, this is done for a number of reasons. One, because of the new wealth, the new currency as a result of the wealth of Iraq that's going to be created, and also to stop all of the pilfering, which cannot occur with the digital currency. We know all of the games that Iran and other nations have played with the Iraqi dinar, with the provisional 3-0 currency, with the spread between the official and the street rate. All of that goes away with the digital currency. Now, with regard to the deletion of the zeros, I want to point back to the reinstitution of the Kuwaiti dinar, because a lot of people are concerned that the deletion of the zeros would mean, for example, if you had 10 million dinar, the deletion of the zeros would mean that you now only have 10,000 dinar. But the deletion of the zeros is an in-country, internal issue having to do with money supply. When they created the provisional 3-0 currency, that resulted in a substantial increase in the money supply. So when you have a static situation with goods and services, perhaps even less production of goods and services, against a substantial increase in money supply, you get not only inflation. In the case of Iraq, you got hyperinflation. So a lot of individuals are concerned that now that they're proceeding with the deletion of the zeros, that will also affect us. Now, to be completely honest, I guess that is possible. But in my opinion, I don't see how it's likely or probable for the following reason. A large reason why Iraq's been able to resurrect itself is because all of the international investment that's poured into that country. Central banks around the world, global hedge funds have invested. There are the whale investors, but the largest group are individuals such as ourselves who have invested money into the country. So I refuse to believe that Iraq would pull the rug out from all of us. I refuse to believe that the central banks would harm their own citizens by recognizing the deletion of the zeros outside of Iraq. The deletion of the zeros had to do with controlling inflation inside of Iraq, not ripping off those that invested in the country for the last 20 years. So in my opinion, again, I don't think the deletion of the zeros is going to affect us. We're going to go to our central bank through our local bank. We'll exchange our currencies. Those currencies, provisional dinar, will go to the central bank. The central bank will go to the Central Bank of Iraq, and they will retire the provisional 3-0 currencies in return for something of value. There are a lot of things that could be done, but they will be done. And the last thing I'll mention is I do not think that President Trump will allow Iraq to pull that stunt for a number of reasons, and I think that that's all been worked out. Now, there's something called the 0-0 Project, and what this does is it allows the country, the IQDs, to reflect their real intrinsic value. This is accomplished through the new economic fundamentals in their country, the substantial revenue that they've gotten from oil sales, the increase in their gold reserves, the increase in overall domestic production, and then the new trade that's been instituted as the result of the increase in production with the United States, with China, with the EU, and others. So for this reason, once again, I do not see the deletion of the zeros being an issue for those of us that have purchased the currency. So, in my opinion, I think Iraq is poised for the release of their new exchange rate. I think the numbers have been crunched. I think they have a date. I think they have a rate. It is as yet undisclosed. I'm of the opinion, and it's just my opinion, that President Trump knows both the date and the rate, and we're simply waiting. Now, we don't want to see a reinstitution again late in a quarter. I know everyone would like to have a wonderful Christmas and have a reinstitution of the dinar between now and Christmas. But again, I don't think over the holiday season people want to deal with the stress of the exchange, of the taxes, of all of that. I think we should be comfortable with the knowledge that everything's moving inextricably to the reinstitution and global revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, and the January would be the absolute best time for this to occur. Taxes would not be due until April 15th on that reinstitution, the quarterly taxes. That would give us plenty of time to ascertain what the tax is, and when I say that, there is an argument to be made. There are sections of the code and IRS publications which suggest that this could be treated as cap gain. I myself am not of that view, but it is a possibility. And with the reinstitution and revaluation in January, that would give us sufficient time to explore that possibility. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the rates of the dinar, but I want to go back to the Kuwaiti situation. I think Kuwait dinar rested at the end of the day at, I think it was $3.26, as I recall. But when the Kuwaiti dinar reinstituted, and remember, the Kuwaiti situation didn't go on for decades. It went on for a few years. But the Kuwaiti dinar went up over 7 USD before it dropped back down to 326. So extrapolating from that, it's not unlikely that the Iraqi dinar could theoretically, from the velocity of people investing in it, could be double-digit before it drops back down. Certainly, if it were to drop back down to 485, which is what some speculators are saying, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that it could be over $10 before it dropped back down. Shabibi, who was the individual that was the governor of the Central Bank of Iraq back in the day, said that he thought the Iraqi dinar should be worth about $16. Well, even if he was half right, half of that would be $8, so that's a substantial increase. The reason I bring this up is because we don't want individuals to exchange their currency, see it go up, purchase it again, and then have it drop precipitously and end up losing their money. We do not want to do that. Anyone that's purchased the dinar, and I would argue the dong pre-RV, is going to have a very, very good day when they go to the bank to do the exchange, and I would hope that they would take that windfall profit, invest it wisely, and not gamble beyond that, because nothing of this magnitude, in my opinion, I've been thinking about this has ever happened before. Nothing like this is ever going to happen again, because we have a situation where we went globally from fiat currencies, meaning money based solely on the full faith and credit of a given government, to Basel compliant currencies, meaning currencies would be valued based on the known natural resources of these respective countries and the ability to bring those resources to market. So we come along and purchase the Iraqi dinar in a program rate because of the invasion. And we sit on this currency, allowing the country to reconstitute itself. And during this period of time, we've gone through the phases of Basel compliance. So we purchase the currency for next to nothing, and it'll be reinstituted, and we will exchange at a Basel compliant rate, which is a substantial windfall profit. And that should be more than enough for every rational person to then take that money and invest it wisely. Now, investments is one issue, but there's another issue, and that's the preservation of this wealth generationally. So investors are going to have a choice. They're either going to choose to protect that wealth, or they're going to choose to continue to proceed with that wealth not being protected. Now, what I mean by that is that you're going to choose between placing your wealth in a protective trust package, or you're just going to fly blind. Now, if you look at the investors from a century ago, the first golden age of the United States, the industrialists and all the very wealthy, all of them have their money in generational trusts. This is why it's very difficult to determine what their actual net worth is and what their holdings are. This is also why it's virtually impossible to successfully sue them. So this is why you're in even more advantageous position, because you're not going to be establishing a trust to protect your wealth. You're establishing a trust in anticipation of this wealth. And you have every reason to believe that we're going to be in the banks in the not too distant future, and that we're going to walk out of these banks certainly well off, and many of us extremely well off. But if you have these currencies, if you believe that they're going to reinstitute, and if you've done the math using the various numbers that I've discussed, you have a pretty good idea what your net worth is going to be when you walk out of that bank. The difference is, are you going to walk out of that bank protected, or are you going to walk out of that bank unprotected? Now, what do I mean by protection? Very simply, by establishing your asset protection trust package prior to the reinstitution of the currency, meaning you establish the trust, you assign the currencies to the trust before you go to the bank to do the exchange. Now, how does this protect you? Well, it protects you in a number of ways. First, you will have protected your privacy and your anonymity, because assets within an asset protection trust are sealed, meaning no one knows what's in that trust and technically who owns these things. This cannot be accomplished with a sub-S corporation, with an LLC, with a limited liability company, with a statutory revocable trust. This can only be accomplished through the asset protection trust package that we are marketing to those of you that have currencies. The second benefit is you're going to avoid personal IRS scrutiny. Why is that? That's because while you're the beneficiary of the proceeds from the trust, the business activities are actually occurring within the trust, which means two things. Number one, it means any audit would not involve you, it would involve the trust. And second, the IRS is loath to audit very sophisticated trust packages because they know that's going to be very time consuming, because they rightfully assume you have sophisticated legal counsel. The IRS much prefers to go after the low-hanging fruit, Joe Lunchbox, who for some reason has a very, very good year and has taxable income substantially higher than he's had in previous years. Well, that's not going to happen to you because the taxable event is going to occur within the trust, not you personally. The third benefit of the package is pre-RV gifting. Many individuals that have purchased currencies are going to understandably gift them to friends and families to assist them and to be generous. But there is a problem. Many individuals are hesitant to gift currencies to family and friends because they rightfully believe, for any number of reasons, that these individuals are unable or simply incapable of managing the money for their own benefit. Well, we've gotten around that because included in our Asset Protection Trust package is a special pre-RV gifting subtrust, which means you can gift currencies to these friends and family. You can avoid the federal gift tax by gifting these currencies to them pre-RV through our trust package. But this pre-RV gifting trust also allows you complete control of the post-RV proceeds. So while these individuals are beneficiaries of the gift, you will be able to manage that money for their benefit. Now, I know that ours is the only trust package that has a pre-RV gifting trust in it because I wrote this trust package, this special gift trust, gave it to our attorneys to review, to refine, and have made it available. And many of our clients, including those that had our trust package before we even created this gift subtrust, have come back and had that gift subtrust established. And now they know they can gift currencies in good faith to family and friends, and that money will not be lost because they will be able to manage that money for the benefit of those individuals. Now, the other thing this trust does is it allows you to avoid the cost, delay, and exposure of probate and the federal estate tax. Ordinarily, when heirs receive an estate, it goes through probate, and that's a matter of public record. But the individuals that are beneficiaries of your trust will receive their benefit without going through probate. Why? Because ownership doesn't change hands. The trust still retains ownerships of the assets. It's just that the individuals that created the trust and have passed away have now ceded the benefits to the beneficiaries. So the proceeds simply shift to the beneficiaries, but the ownership remains the same. And since there's the same owner, there is no probate. There is no public disclosure of the estate, the size of the estate, who the heirs are, and how much they stand to inherit. There's also another benefit, something called the federal estate tax. This is the tax that the federal government assesses in order for the transfer of the estate. Once again, there is no transfer. The ownership is static. The owner is the trust. And because there is no change of ownership, there is no federal estate tax. The federal estate tax can be as high as 55% of the entire estate in excess of $12.2 million, which means that not only will your estate bypass probate, but your heirs will privately receive 100 cents on a dollar, not 45 cents on a dollar after the federal estate tax, 100 cents on a dollar. This can only be accomplished through a trust package like ours. It cannot be done any other way. And the last benefit, asset protection benefits, both pre and post-RV. Pre-RV, as the owner of the currencies, the creator of the trust, and the transfer of the pre-RV currencies to the trust, you're able to avoid the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. Very simply, what this means is you purchase 10 million dinar for $10,000. You transfer the currencies to the trust. They subsequently revalue, and let's just say for $1. You now have 10 million in trust. Can you personally be sued for 10 million? No. Why? Because the currencies were only worth $10,000 when you transferred them out of title to the trust. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop loss. This protects you from future bad acts after you've acquired this wealth. This protection is accomplished through a legal strategy called segregation of assets. Very simply, I'll use the same example. You purchased 10 million dinar for $10,000. You assigned those currencies to the trust. They subsequently revalued, and let's use a more reasonable number, say $3. You now have $30 million in trust, so you decide to make some purchases, homes, cars, boats, etc. But as you purchased each of these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by the master trust, the initial trust you set up pre-RV. Now, what this means is, if, for example, you had a rental property where an occupant was tripped and hurt themselves, fell down the steps, or you were in a car accident or a boating accident, it's only that one asset that would be involved in any litigation, because the other assets are in separate subtrusts, which under the law are separate legal entities, which mean that any potential or prospective plaintiff would have no standing to pursue those other assets. So this asset protection trust package is the only guarantor of your wealth generationally. There's no other asset, there's no other construct that you can create that can preserve your privacy, your anonymity, and the preservation of your wealth generationally. Now, this was a sophisticated trust package that we utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But when we decided to market this trust to Dinarians, and we were aware of the fact that we were not actually funding the trust, only assigning the currencies initially, we've been able to reduce the cost substantially to $2,500. This will allow you to have all of the benefits that we've described here. It's as sophisticated a trust as any that we've provided for any of our clients in the past. But again, it's a preemptive package. You have the currencies. You expect them to reinstitute. You take them out of title, place them in the protective trust. You're off the grid. No one knows that you have this wealth. No one knows where it came from, and no one can take it from you. And that can only be accomplished through the process of assigning these currencies to the trust prior to their reinstitution and revaluation. Now, again, this trust package has an initial cost of $2,500, which is substantially less than the $6,000 to $10,000 that would ordinarily cost you. I would strongly suggest, if the things we've discussed are of interest, that you contact us to get our initial no-obligation package. It does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed, but you're under no obligation to do so. You can review the package, contact us if you have any questions. Again, if you decide to proceed, everything you need is included in the package. I would strongly suggest that you review everything seriously, and because you're going to need to make a quick decision, because God willing, this thing is going to be over in January, and you're going to need your trust in force and your currencies assigned on paper to that trust before they reinstitute. Now, you can contact us by email or phone to get our initial no-obligation package. I'm going to open the Q&A for our questions, and then I'll give you the information of how to contact us directly. Oddly here, the Q&A session's opened, and it looks like we've lost some calls. Oh, here, they're coming back in. I don't know what happened, but all of the people that called in seem to have disappeared. So I'm going to wait for them to call back in, and I want to give you our contact information. If you want to get our initial no-obligation package, again, you can do that by email or phone. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC @gmail.com. That's trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC @gmail.com. Make sure you put the LLC in there, because some clown that's trying to jump in on what we're doing has created a similar trust. It just doesn't have the LLC. So once again, it's trusts with an S, unlimited, LLC @gmail.com. And our phone service is 307-274-4122. That's 307-274-4122. Contact us by email or phone. We'll get our trust package out to you as quickly as possible. By the way, we have been recently inundated with trust requests. I'm working as quickly as I can. I have phone calls to return. I'm going to return all those phone calls, and then I'm going to get right back to the paralegals to get the trust packages out to you as soon as possible. We like to get these out within a couple of days. I apologize because it's taking longer than that, but that's because of the number of individuals that have made requests. So I'm just going to be here all day doing whatever I can to move everything forward. So, boy, we got some people in the Q&A here. Our first caller is area code 347. That's 347. Go ahead.
Okay, I think yesterday was the election. It looks like Sudani's is going to win the election. It looks like it.
Yes, I agree. I didn't want to say that because I don't know for sure, but I agree with you. It looks like that he's won re-election, and that's just more good news for us.
Okay, another thing now, are you sure that I've been hearing that it may be 1 or 2 years away, and that Iraq has been issuing contract with MOUs? Is that any truth to that, or no?
Not in my opinion. We could literally being in the bank doing our exchange, and there are people out there saying it didn't happen. So there's nothing I can do about that. I've seen some of that, and I've gotten to the point where I drown it out. Until I see something that convinces me that we're looking at another 1 and 2 years out, everything tells me we're on a glide path for January.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Bye-bye now. Our next caller is area code 443. That's 443. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. It's Gina from Maryland.
Hey, Gina. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Turn right after
2 miles. Sorry, I'm driving. I have a question about the Schedule A form. So I originally completed that form. At the time, I only had dinar. And since then, I have purchased dong and some additional dinar. So I haven't updated that yet. How critical is that form?
Here's what I would do. I will tell you what I did, because I purchased some other currencies. I literally, very neatly, I don't write very well, but as neatly as I could, I wrote in the additional currencies that I acquired, and in the margin, I initialed it and put the date.
Turn right after
and as long as you...
32.
Hold on. Let me end this thing.
You're really multitasking over there.
I know. It's not smart either. Really not smart. This is typically not what I do.
I'm incapable of it.
I've been trying to. I missed last week, and I've been wanting to ask. So, yeah. Okay. So you're saying just add it. You're saying just go ahead and add it.
And write it in. Now, if you want to create a new document and type it in and do all that, you can certainly do that. But I'm saying just to protect yourself, as long as you write it in and initial it and put the little initial in a date in the margin, that should be fine.
Okay. All right. So we really should have that document all tidied up before we are
Yes.
It needs to be going in for exchange, and even before RV, even before revaluation.
Any pre-valued currencies in your possession should be itemized on that form.
And you need to list. I mean, how should we reflect it as how much? Like currently, it's reflected as how much I paid and what it equates to in Iraqi dinar.
It doesn't even have that. If you look at the language of it, what it should say, any and all currencies in your possession, which means it's an open-ended in kind. It means any pre-RV currencies, however much you have that you purchase pre-RV. Obviously, if you purchase a currency post-RV, well, you wouldn't do it. You're going to go purchase dinar when dinar is worth 3 USD? No. So obviously, the presumption is we're talking about pre-valued currencies. But if you look at the language in there, I think it says something to the effect that any and all pre-valued currencies, and you don't even have to put an amount. Theoretically, you'd only have to put the currencies you hold, not the amounts or when you purchase them.
That's the assignment form, right? My assignment form.
You're talking about my apologies, Schedule A.
Yeah, I'm talking about Schedule A.
Yeah. That's my apology.
Okay.
Put the amount of currency whatever it was, 10 million dinar, 10 million dong, whatever it was. Put the amounts in there.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Sure. Bye now. Our next caller is area code 509. That's 509. Go ahead.
Well, hello there, Jim. This is Art in the left coast, Washington State. How are you doing, my friend?
A little bit in the weeds over here, but doing well.
You're in the weeds?
Yeah. Well, that's a restaurant expression. It means I'm real busy.
Yep. Like a rat in a rain barrel, I understand. This business, where you're talking just now about the Schedule A, I'm a little bit unsure about that. What I've done is listed every bill on an Excel spreadsheet with the serial number listing, such as X number of 25,000 dinar notes and then 10,000 dinar notes and so on and so forth. Forgive me, but what is the Schedule A? I thought that the Excel spreadsheet would suffice.
Don't worry. That should suffice. And you are a very anal individual because you're the only person that I've spoken to in all these years that's done that much. So you should be fine because you've not only given it, you've got amounts, the currency you hold, the amounts you hold, a description, you've got a serial number. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's overkill, but that's okay. It's better to have too much than not enough information, so you're good.
Okay, good. Now one thing as well, in dealing with the changing the subject but staying within the trust, dealing with coin, there isn't a way that you can list the coin or even the Bitcoin even or the XRP, but any of those entities, just list the fact that you have.
You take the assignment form, you take out the paragraph with regard to pre-valued currencies, and you put a descriptive paragraph in there for any other financial asset, a currency, money that you're assigning, and that should be fine. But don't try to do it on the form, the same form as the pre-valued currencies. Just take that form and change that one, create a separate form, except that one paragraph is going to deal with the other currencies you have, the cryptos, etc. Other individuals have used it for things like stamp collections or other collectibles. They'll just take that paragraph out. So just do that and just put the description of your cryptos in there. You should be fine.
Okay,
remember,
that's great.
The difference with the other assets that aren't pre-valued is there's no drop-dead date. There's a drop-dead date with the pre-valued currencies because you want to make sure it's assigned to the trust before it revalues. other things you have which have value and will increase in value, but it's not like $1 million dinar that could be worth $1,000 today and $3 million tomorrow. You don't have any of that going on. That's why it's critical for the pre-valued currencies, but it's still a good idea to do it for everything else, all the other currencies.
Okay. You don't have to then. Okay, so unlike where I've gone with the Excel spreadsheet with every bill and everything, you don't have to do that with coins. Like I say, I've received coin that, the Morgan silver dollars, different things like that. You don't just list the coin itself, or not the coin itself, but just that you have coin.
Right.
On the
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coin.
All right.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, sir. You always
a
blessing with knowledge. I love it. Bye now. Take care.
I appreciate that. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye now. Okay, our next caller is, let's see, area code 801. That's 801. Go ahead.
Jim, how are you this afternoon?
Busy as hell. Who's this? That voice sounds familiar.
This is Clay. Clay in Salt Lake City. How are you? Good to hear your voice.
I should have known that. Good to hear yours too.
Jim, you and I have been in this probably about the same time. I've been in this for 20 years, since 2005. I remember when the guy got the shipment in, and everything was in Arabic, and we picked our notes, and they were all brand new, and we're so excited about this thing. But my question is this. It seems like we always get up to the finish line, and we can't get it crossed. They started with this thing years ago, trying to get this thing handled. They finally got a prime minister in there that's moving this thing along. But what I'm stumped on is this 3-year budget that started in 2023, 24, and 25. Not any of those years did they pass the budget. It never went to Parliament for approval. What makes you think the 2025 budget is going to go to Parliament for approval? I've been told by other sources that they have to change the rate because the new rate is in the budget, and the Parliament would be the one to approve that budget so they could move forward. So if they never move the budget, if they never ever settle on a budget in those 3 years that they were supposed to, what money, if any money, has been allotted for those? I mean, we don't even know if they have money for any of these budgets.
All right. Well, this is probably going to be a little bit of a convoluted answer, but we're dealing with a country that kind of either changes the rules or ignores the rules as they go along. Where is it written that they have to pass the budget before they reinstitute the currency, or where is it that they have to have the new rate in order to pass the budget? I think that the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar is on its own glide path, and there's nothing else that affects it in terms of when they're ready to go, they're going to go, whether they pass the budget or not. I mean, think about it. If they've gone this many years without a budget in a program rate, why is it a big deal for them to defer passage of the budget and get out of a program rate? It's as though, to me, they're not linked, the rate and the budget. Remember, this is a dysfunctional government that's got some obstructionists, Iranian obstructionists in it, and I think Trump's the steamroller that's just going to say, you've got to reinstitute your currency, all that other stuff will take care of itself. That's just the way I see it.
Well, tell me this. If they keep their currency in a program rate, in comparison to China, who's always undershined their rate, doesn't that make their imports and exports cheaper to keep it? Why would they change it?
Because the United States spent a lot of money and national treasure liberating that country, and because we have a president that's not going to take no for an answer, and because we're going to punish them with sanctions and tariffs if they don't get their head out of their posterior and get this done, in my humble opinion.
Tell me this: you've got a date of January. I've heard that before, but that really isn't a date regarding their new fiscal period, which is actually in April.
Which
I think
I
it's
agree.
in March to April. So why would you feel January's pertinent date?
Because we're dealing with a culture where the rules don't always apply. I mean, they kind of do what they want. They get together and they have all these meetings and they have all these votes and they come to an agreement and half the country just ignores it. I hate to say it, but it's just chaos, and you need a strong man like Trump and like some other individuals that have gotten involved in this country that they just owe us, and that's why I say I put my trust in Trump. I just think Trump's working behind the scenes. I think one day he's just going to come out and say, oh, by the way, boom. That's how it's going to happen.
And I agree with that. But I as far as following a date, I don't see a date anywhere in there. They've broken every rule of logically to make this thing come forward. I mean, their country is ready to go. I mean, they've stored all that gold. I think you said they're Basel IV, correct?
Well, what I'm saying is we've reached Basel IV, so when they do reinstitute the currency, it'll be the Basel IV compliant rate.
Right, which makes sense. And the money factor makes sense at that rate.
And here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that's going on. We got midterms coming this year. I think Trump wants to get this done. I think Trump has dinar and Vietnamese dong in just very substantial amounts being held by the U.S. Treasury. I think he's going after the Federal Reserve. I think he wants an audit of the Federal Reserve. I think he wants to end all of this, the whole approach, the debt approach. I think he wants to end all of that. I think he's got very, very grandiose plans, and Iraq is a pivotal part of that. And, people can disagree with me, but I just have a feeling we have a guy in there right now that has a grand plan, and he's working 24/7, and I just think that's the way it's going to happen. It's not a conventional, way things have been done in the past, but this isn't a conventional guy.
Have your sources in Iraq told you that Donald Trump is very active in his negotiations with Iraq regarding the timing of the reinstitution?
Well, they've said that Savaya and the U.S. Treasury is very, very active, and that to me is Trump.
Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to pick your brain. It just seems like this thing is, like you said, one step forward, 3 steps back. So. Hey,
I do this for a living. I have to deal with this every day, and no one's more frustrated than I am. I was a middle-aged man when this started.
Absolutely. Me as well.
So, I agree. I really, really want it, but I'm giving you the information as I'm getting it, and I keep going back to it. But I just think Trump does so much behind the scenes, and then he just comes out and look what's going on right now. With the Democrats are about to fold. With what's going on, closing down the government and all of that. He's just a force in nature, and he's the guy you want. He wants this done, and so I think it will get done.
All right, my friend. That's all I had.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye now.
You too.
Our next caller is area code 301. That's 301. Go ahead.
Hi, Jim. It's Larry from Maryland. Question with the exchange. When we get to that, we'll have an exchange rate. What are the fixed portions of that process, and what's actually negotiable? What are we, what
well, you're going to go. You're going to go to the bank. They're going to tell you what the rate is. If you feel, well, and I've said this in the past, it'd be good if, what we're planning to do is call the banks and see what kind of rates they're, their initial rate that they're going to exchange at. You can always go to a bank and negotiate down the transaction fee, try to negotiate up the rate based on what you could get across the street. Across the street, there's all kinds of things you can do, but they're going to be pretty hardcore about it. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the people there aren't really negotiators. They're just there saying, this is the deal, take it or leave it. And if it's a number that is within the range, you might take it, you might leave it, you might say, well, I got $10 million, I'm going to exchange $5 million here, and I'm going to go across the street. If I don't get a better deal, I'll come back and exchange my, So it's up to everyone. Most of the people that have dinar are not negotiators. They're going to go in there shaking like a leaf, get what they can get, and be thrilled, and that's fine.
So the published rate is not really the fixed rate. It is actually, you can go up or down on whatever that rate ends up being on the day you're there.
Well, you could wake up in the morning, see a published rate, get to the bank at 11:15 that morning, and that's no longer the rate. So I mean, it's going to float. It's going to be all over the place. So now maybe one bank will say whatever the rate is at 9 a.m. that morning, that's our rate for the rest of the day. And then you go in there and say, well, wait, the rate should be a little bit better. You're just going to have to make a decision. Everyone wants to go in there and get as much as they possibly can, and that's all you can do.
Right. I mean, I wasn't trying to do it like that. I just wanted to understand what's flexible, what's fixed when you go in.
Well, my experience with banks is they're pretty inflexible.
Okay.
But this is, 99% of the people involved in this, whether you're the person walking in with the currencies or you're the person sitting at the desk doing the exchange, 99% of the people have never done anything like this before. So it's kind of hard to say with any certitude exactly how this is going to work.
Mm-hmm. And when they're trading it, they're not. I mean, I guess what I don't quite understand is if this goes to the central bank, you don't lose money. Like they can't give you something where they lose money, right?
No.
That makes any sense.
They're not. Well, they're not going to lose money. First of all, they're charging you to do the exchange. So what's 2% of $25 million? They're making money. The banks are not going to lose, okay? I'm not, and if they do, I'm not losing any sleep over the bank losing some money. Okay.
Right.
You're in there to take care of yourself, and they're on their own.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Take care. Bye-bye now. Our next caller is area code 619. That's 619. Go ahead.
Hey, Jim. How you doing?
Hey, Eddie. How you doing?
Excellent, my friend. Excellent. Good information. And that last guy, with regards to the budgets, asked some good questions. My question to you is this, with regards to January. Why January, if you would clear that up? And most of all, don't move it. Don't keep pushing it forward. Don't make it to March and April and September and October. Leave it in January and be done with it.
Well, there's two dates or months that are kind of important. One is January, which is the beginning of a calendar year, and the second is like in April, which with a lot of countries is the first month of their fiscal year. So some people are saying, well, Iraq may hold off until April because it's easier for them for their fiscal year. I don't think that would happen, but I guess anything's possible. January seems to make the most sense based on the progress that's been made thus far. I mean, it's not even going to hit January for, 6 weeks or more? So that's more than enough time to complete, in my opinion, what's left to be done. And another reason January is good is you go to the bank, you do your exchange in January. Taxes won't be due until April, so you have plenty of time to ascertain exactly what the tax is and not have any worries about liquidity. So when I say January, it's also wishful thinking because that works so perfectly. Who wants a revaluation the last week of December, when taxes would then be due on January 15th, you might not even have the liquidity from the bank by that date, although I don't see how the banks could get away with that. But it just, when you get close to the end of a quarter, but particularly the end of the year, it gets complicated. So, if it were December 1st, I'd say I don't want to see it till January. I don't want to see it till January. It's just too crazy, So to me, January just makes sense. And I just have this feeling, I could be wrong, I just have this feeling that Trump's involved in everything. He's got his finger in every pie, and I think he's well aware of the fact that from a tax standpoint, January is much better than December. And that's just my opinion, based on the way I read the guy and based on the tax code and how it works. That would just be optimal for everybody. And and like I said, it's just my opinion.
Yeah, I get your opinion. I'm just saying, when you say it as that's the information you have, like that's when it's going to happen. So I'm just curious, was that your opinion, or was that the information that someone along the line saying?
My opinion. Okay, let me clarify then. My opinion is we're very close, and it could well happen before January 1st. But in as much as we're this close to the end of the year, and because I think some of the players involved understand the tax complications this late in the year, January, it's not just a matter of what the CBI wants to do. It's a matter of there are other people and players that are involved, and I just can't see it happen late in December, But I guess anything's possible. I will tell you this: if I had to choose a date right now, I'd have to say it's either got to happen before Thanksgiving or after January 1st, because from Thanksgiving to January 1st, it's just too much stress, too much going on. It's not enough time. You call the bank to set up an appointment, you got to wait 3 weeks to go to the bank. Then the rate's up and down and all over the place. It's just crazy. Maybe it's just wishful thinking on my part that January just seems to, we've waited, some of us have waited 20, 25 years. What's a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I know. As I'm sure a lot of people are frustrated, because every year we hear this same statement, January, then April, and then September, and then December comes to January. So it's not the first time it's being said. And with all respect to you, Jim, you give your heart. Appreciate everything you share and do. It just it would be nice if finally, for once, they kept to the word. Trump had stated, and I believe you stated this, that Trump had given him that 30-day extension off the 30 days, and that he wanted it done. And now we're still going way past that line, and we're not done. Now he's got elected.
Wait a minute. We don't know that they didn't get it done. We just know it hadn't been announced yet.
Sure.
My personal opinion is
done.
It is.
So you're right.
My opinion is it is done. Everything that needs to be done is done.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this: if you go back and if you go back all the way back to the Reichsmark over the last 100 years, all the major reinstitutions of currencies, they've all happened in January, April, or September, meaning a calendar or a fiscal year. So I guess what I'm saying is it's going to be the calendar fiscal year. And if it doesn't happen in January, I guess the argument is, now we're going to have to wait till April. And that's a possibility. But my heart of hearts says to me January.
I'm starting to say, okay, January of what year? That's what I want to know.
Oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah.
What year?
Boy,
you can tell me month, but what year?
Every once in a while, when I think, if this had, if I'd have purchased a NAR 20 years ago and it happened, 18 years ago or something like that, where would I be now? What would I be doing? It's so much money that's involved that it really does affect life decisions. And, I always wonder what I would have done. I know I had some ideas back then, but you don't know what you're going to do, what's going to come to fruition. Unfortunately, I'm at the age now where I'm starting to plan for my children and grandchildren, and not so much for myself. I'm not complaining, I'll take it, but, we've been in this game a long time. And the Kuwait, I made some money in the Kuwaiti, but it was nothing compared to this. You know, it changed my life in certain ways and improved my life in certain ways. But this is just another, you know, this is just off the charts, different than anything else I've ever experienced, and I'm sure that's the case for most people. I mean, even currency speculators are looking at this like this is gargantuan. What is going to happen here? Remember, the dinar went to the program rate when the country was in complete chaos at $3.22. So now they spent all that money globally to invest in that country. 25, 30 years has gone by. We have inflation, and then we had Basel compliance. 322 to me seems like it might be an initial number, but it could be 2-3 times that theoretically. You know?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's going to be, let me put it to you this way, it's going to be a very interesting next few months.
All right, Jim. Hey, appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Sure. All right. You take care. Bye-bye now. Well, that was our last caller for this afternoon. Again, thanks so much for taking the time to listen to this call. Our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and try to schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we'll be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Lastly, if the things we've discussed are of interest and you have not yet gotten our initial no obligation package, I strongly suggest you do so. You can contact us by email or phone. Email address is trusts with an S, Unlimited LLC @gmail.com, and our phone service is 307-274-4122. Send us a request by email or phone. We'd love to work with you. We'll send our trust package out to you immediately. In the meantime, have a great week, everyone. God bless.